The wind hit her face as she stepped out of the store, blinking back tears that stung worse than the cold. Evelyn wrapped her scarf tighter around her neck, not for warmth, but to hide the flush of humiliation. People had watched. They had stared, like she was some lowlife trying to steal. All because she didn't look rich enough. It was supposed to be a simple errand: milk, some fresh bread, maybe flowers if they were still in season. But from the moment she walked into Belmar Boutique and Grocers, the employees treated her like dirt. Evelyn was used to dressing plain. She liked comfort. She didn't need labels stitched onto her back to feel worthy. But today, her faded jeans and oversized coat had made her invisible. No worse, they made her suspicious. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to leave. Now." The manager's voice was loud enough to draw attention, like he wanted to embarrass her. She'd simply asked where the organic flour was. That was it. But his eyes had scanned her like she didn't belong there, like her presence was a problem. She had frozen, unsure of what she did wrong. "Is there a problem?" she'd asked, her voice quiet. "We've had a recent string of thefts and I'm not taking chances. You can shop somewhere else." Evelyn's mouth had gone dry. She noticed the older woman in pearls watching her from the corner with a smirk. 2 teenagers had laughed. Near the snack aisle. Her hands trembled as she placed the small basket of items on the floor and walked out without another word. Not because she agreed, not because she was guilty, but because staying any longer felt like sinking in quicksand, and she needed to breathe. By the time she got home, she didn't want to talk. Her husband, Marcus, found her curled up on the couch. He knew something was wrong the moment he stepped in the door. Her eyes were red, and her body was too still. Evelyn wasn't a dramatic woman. She didn't cry easily, she didn't complain. So when she told him what happened, her voice shaking, cheeks flushed, fingers clenching her sweater, he sat in silence, absorbing every word. "What store?" he finally asked, voice low. "Belmar, that fancy place near the square." He didn't say anything after that. He just kissed her forehead and left the room. Evelyn didn't think much of it. Maybe he needed space too. He always carried things deep in his chest, like a volcano that never erupted. The next morning she woke to silence. Marcus was gone. No note, no call. Typical of him when he was focused. She didn't expect anything out of the ordinary until the news hit. Breaking: Belmar Boutique closed indefinitely after sudden buyout. Evelyn sat straight up on the couch. Her phone buzzed with messages from friends, neighbors, even people she barely spoke to. Did Marcus just buy an entire store? Is it true your husband shut down Belmar? What the hell happened? Confused, she turned on the TV. The reporter stood in front of the shop, the doors locked behind her. According to documents filed early this morning, billionaire Marcus Langford has purchased the entire Belmar Boutique and Grocers franchise. Sources claim he intends to clean house. Her jaw dropped. Billionaire. That word still didn't sit right with her. Marcus hated the spotlight. He'd built his wealth through tech, always in the shadows, always avoiding cameras. Most people in town had no idea who he really was, just that he drove an old pickup and kept to himself. The camera panned across the storefront, and Evelyn's breath caught. A massive banner stretched across the windows in thick gold letters. "We don't tolerate disrespect under new ownership." And beneath it a sign that read, "To the woman who was kicked out, and this store is yours now." She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Her phone rang, but she didn't pick up. Her eyes stayed fixed on the screen. Her husband had gone quiet, but his silence had been louder than any scream. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. Evelyn stared at it like it was some foreign object, lighting up, buzzing, blinking, as if the world suddenly discovered her existence. Her hands hovered over it, hesitant. She didn't want to hear the sympathy or the fake apologies, or worse, the ones who pretended they always liked her. By the time she checked her inbox, there were already 3 interview requests, a morning talk show, a women's empowerment podcast, even a national news station. They all wanted the same story, the quiet woman who owned a store overnight. She closed her laptop. None of them cared how she felt when she stood in that aisle, knees shaking, the weight of humiliation pressing into her chest like a stone. None of them saw how the cashier looked through her like she was trash. They just cared that the story now had money, power, and drama. The door creaked open. Marcus walked in casually, like he hadn't just flipped an entire town upside down. "You bought the damn store," she said, standing in the middle of the room. He nodded. "And the franchise?" She blinked. "You bought the whole company." He dropped the keys on the counter. They had skeletons in the books. Easy buy, cheap too. Evelyn stared at him. "Marcus, that's not just revenge. That's war." He met her eyes. "They embarrassed my wife in public." She wanted to be mad, really, but part of her couldn't stop smiling. Still, she wasn't blind. This wasn't just some power move. This was going to make headlines. There'd be backlash. People in this town liked Belmar. It was the boutique place to shop. Families went there every Sunday, after church. Rich women paraded in heels between aisles, pretending to be humble, and now all of them were about to find out that the quiet woman in oversized sweaters and grocery store sneakers owned it all. It started that afternoon. Evelyn went to the bakery for a loaf of rye. She wore her usual, hair tied back, hoodie, no makeup. Normally she'd be invisible, but not today. Heads turned. Whispers floated. "That's her, isn't it? The one who owns Belmar now? I heard her husband's a billionaire, quiet type, real dangerous." A young woman in an apron ran over from behind the counter. "Mrs. Langford, right?" She beamed. Evelyn blinked. Yeah." The girl practically tripped over herself. "This one's on the house. You want extra butter on top? I'll double it. We're huge fans." Evelyn wasn't sure if the girl even knew her name last week. As she stepped outside, an older woman in a designer coat approached her, slow and cautious. It was the same one who smirked at her inside Belmar just the day before. "Evelyn, dear," the woman began with a practiced smile, "there's been a misunderstanding, hasn't there?" Evelyn met her eyes, steady. "No, I think you understood exactly who you thought I was, and now you realize you were wrong." The woman flinched. "It was the manager's fault, really. He's fired," Evelyn interrupted. "Effective immediately. Along with half your tea club, if we're being honest." The woman turned pale. "You can't just—" "I can," Evelyn said softly, "and I did." She didn't raise her voice, didn't snap, but the message hit harder than any scream. That night, Marcus showed her the files. Surveillance footage, payroll scandals, staff emails full of classist jokes and racism. One of the regional managers even wrote, "Keep an eye on the ones who look broke." Evelyn didn't know if she was more heartbroken or furious. These people weren't just rude, they were trained to profile. "I want to do something," she said finally. Marcus looked at her. "Like what?" "I don't want to just fire people, I want to rebuild it. Hire people who were looked down on, give discounts to single moms, teach customer service with empathy. No more perfume-heavy, pearl-wearing bullies running things." He grinned. "You want to start a war on elitism?" She nodded. "Let's burn it down and rebuild something better." Over the next few days, the media circus grew. Journalists camped outside their house. Business. Pages ran headlines like, "The quiet billionaire's wife who dismantled a retail empire." Talk shows begged her to come on. But Evelyn stayed quiet. She wasn't doing this for fame. Still, the whispers got louder. "She's just a gold digger who got lucky. I bet he bought the store just to shut her up." Let's see how long her little charity experiment lasts. And then came the first protest. Outside the Belmar flagship, a group of ex-employees rallied with signs. "She's ruining our jobs." Belmar was tradition, not charity. Down with nepotism. Evelyn watched from the office window, sipping coffee. Her hands didn't shake this time, not like they did when she stood humiliated in aisle 4. Marcus stepped beside her. "You sure you still want this?" She nodded. "Let them scream. They screamed when women wanted to vote, when workers asked for weekends. They'll scream until the silence makes them uncomfortable." He kissed her temple. "Damn, I love you." She smiled. "Let's make 'em madder tomorrow." By the end of the week, Evelyn had fired 15 more people, including 3 district supervisors and a regional head who had once called poor customers window shopping cockroaches in a private group chat. Each firing came with evidence, emails, recorded meetings, complaints swept under rugs for years. The press loved it. Queen of Clean House, Evelyn Langford's silent purge. From shame to power, woman redesigns, Belmar after classist scandal. But the praise came with equal parts venom. Former employees called her a tyrant. Anonymous online accounts labeled her a privileged hypocrite, dragging up old photos of her from college, parties, messy hair, thrift store outfits, as if proving she was never boss material. And yet, Evelyn didn't flinch. She showed up to the main Belmar store the following Monday, with a clipboard, a box of homemade muffins, and her sleeves rolled up. The security guard stood taller now, trained to protect her after a bottle had been thrown at her car 2 nights prior. Still, she walked in alone. Inside, the store was quieter than usual. Most customers avoided eye contact, unsure of what to make of her. But the new hires, young, nervous, and mostly from working-class backgrounds, watched her like she was either their savior or their downfall. She gathered them near the front. "Here's how this works now," she began. "Every employee gets full benefits after 90 days. No more unpaid overtime, no more managers harassing you over dress code. And if anyone talks down to you, customer or not, you report it to me directly. We're not here to serve egos. We're here to build dignity." A few clapped. Most stared in shock. She paused, then added, "And if any of you screw someone else over, I'll personally escort you out." That got more claps. By midweek, Evelyn had introduced new policies: a quiet shopping hour for elderly and neurodivergent customers, local produce partnerships with low-income farmers, a childcare room for employees who couldn't afford sitters. It wasn't perfect. Some customers were openly hostile. A woman stormed out screaming, "I won't shop in a place that gives discounts to people who can't pay full price." One man threw a fit at the register when his usual cashier was no longer there to flirt with. Evelyn offered him a polite smile and handed him a card that read, "We're not the store for everyone, and that's okay." But the biggest blow came Thursday morning. A headline hit the news: "Former Belmar executives launch rival chain Pure Market." They claimed Evelyn was stripping Belmar of its luxury identity, turning it into a soup kitchen disguised as a grocer. Pure Market promised to bring elegance back to shopping and hinted they'd be opening locations just blocks away from Belmar stores. The message was clear. They were coming for her. Evelyn read the article at breakfast, sipping coffee while Marcus scanned the legal fine print. "They've got investors, old money types, probably the same people who ignored complaints when Belmar was rotten," he muttered. She raised an eyebrow. "You worried?" He looked up. "For them, yeah. They have no idea who they just pissed off." Evelyn smiled. "Let's not play defense. Let's make them choke on their own game." That night she called a meeting with her team. Half of them were under 30, most had never been in leadership roles before. But they had grit, ideas, and a hunger to prove themselves. "We're not just running a grocery chain," she told them. "We're building something louder, something that makes people rethink what luxury actually means." A young man named Jesse, once fired from Belmar for having tattoos, raised his hand. "You mean like, redefine it?" She nodded. "Exactly. To me, luxury is feeling safe. Being treated with respect, shopping without judgment. Let's build that." The plan was bold. They'd remodel each Belmar store with warmth and softness, earth tones, recycled wood, plants in corners, music that calmed the mind. No harsh lights, no perfume fog. Employees in breathable uniforms, not polyester prison wear. Every wall would carry a quote from someone who'd been ignored: mothers, janitors, farm workers, immigrants, and most controversial of all, a photo of Evelyn. From the day she was kicked out. Hair messy, tears in her eyes, the store behind her. Underneath it, "This is where we began. Never again." The backlash came swift. Pure Market's press team released a statement. "We believe in moving forward, not rehashing sob stories for sympathy." Some wealthy customers declared boycotts. Social media lit up with hashtags like #Evelyn Empire and Belmar Gone Woke. But something strange happened. People kept coming. Mothers with strollers, grandparents on fixed incomes, college kids surviving on part-time jobs. The crowds grew larger, quieter, more grateful. Customers left with groceries and something else. Dignity. One elderly man cried at checkout after a clerk carried his bags outside and refused a tip. "I haven't been treated like I mattered in 30 years, he said, voice cracking. And Evelyn? She stayed busy, focused, until one night as she locked up the store alone, a note was slipped under the door. "You don't belong here. Go back to wherever you came from, trash." There was no name, just scribbled hate. She held the paper. In her hand, her fingers still, her jaw tight. She wasn't shocked. She was ready. The next morning, Evelyn arrived early to the flagship Belmar. The sky was still grey, the air damp with that pre-storm heaviness. She stood outside the front doors, coffee in hand, staring at the words still taped to the glass. "Go back to wherever you came from, trash." She left it there. Not because she was afraid, but because she wanted the world to see what still lingered behind closed smiles and polite conversations. Let them see the hate. Let them see what silence protects. By noon, cameras were parked across the street, reporters waiting. To pounce, hoping for a breakdown or a viral reaction. Evelyn gave them neither. Instead, she walked out with 3 single mothers she had hired last week, handed them coffees and chatted like nothing happened. The headline that evening read, "Targeted again, Evelyn Langford smiles through the threats." But behind the scenes, things weren't so calm. Pure Market had opened 2 blocks away. It was a monster. White marble floors, golden carts, elevator music, and staff dressed like hotel concierges. It looked more like a runway than a grocer. Their slogan? Elegance for the select few. Subtle but sharp, and the elite loved it. The same women who used to smirk at Evelyn were now sipping imported champagne near the gluten-free caviar aisle. One of them, an ex-Belmar board member, posted a selfie online with the caption, "Where I really belong. No charity, no politics. Just class." The message was obvious. Evelyn didn't care about the glam, she cared about the staff. And she quickly noticed something disturbing. People she had just hired were suddenly quitting without notice. One day, Jessie didn't show up. Then Aria, her new head of inventory, walked off mid-shift after getting a phone call and never returned. Each one disappeared like clockwork, and soon after, Pure Market conveniently announced new staff from underserved communities. It didn't take a genius to figure it out. Someone inside Belmar was feeding them names, poaching her people, sabotaging from within. Evelyn was furious, but not reckless. She didn't confront anyone yet. Instead, she played quiet. She started observing, watching who lingered after meetings, who stayed on their phones too long, who asked too many questions about pay structure and staffing plans. She narrowed it down to 3 suspects. One of them was someone she'd known since before Marcus ever made his first million, Amira, her childhood friend turned operations manager. Amira had always been ambitious, always sharper than people gave her credit for. But lately, her energy had changed. Smiles that didn't reach her eyes, vague responses, quick glances when Evelyn walked in. And then there was the email. An anonymous tip popped into her inbox. "You're sleeping next to a saboteur. Ask Amira about her." New car. Her stomach dropped. Evelyn did her own digging. Marcus taught her well. Follow paper trails, not rumors. Amira had recently made a down payment on a 2024 Lexus. Not impossible, but odd. Her salary wouldn't have covered it without a huge bonus, and Evelyn knew she hadn't issued any. The betrayal didn't hit like a punch. It was slower, like cold water creeping into your bones. She sat in her office for nearly an hour, phone in hand, just staring at Amira's contact name. That night, Evelyn didn't go home. She drove. Marcus called twice. She let it ring. She sat outside the new Pure Market, watching from across the street. It was packed. Fancy cars, velvet ropes, a security guard checking names at the door like it was a club. She saw her, Amira, walking out in heels, laughing, phone to her ear, stepping into that brand new Lexus. Evelyn didn't cry. She clenched the steering wheel and whispered to herself, "Okay, that's how it's gonna be." The next morning she called a board meeting. No press, no warning. Just her, Marcus, and the 6 most loyal managers she had left. Pure market is buying our people, she said plainly. They're offering them more, throwing money around, and feeding the public this narrative that we're struggling. One of the store leads, Camilla, looked nervous. Are we struggling? Evelyn met her eyes. Not yet. But we will be if we don't hit back. Marcus slid a folder across the table. Inside were blueprints, permits, and renderings. Evelyn smiled grimly. We're not just fighting them. We're outgrowing them. The plan? Bold as hell. She was going to open a Belmar community market. Not just a store, but a gathering space. Affordable produce, local artists, in-store pop-up clinics, and job fairs. And the first one? Right next to Pure Market's flagship. Let them sell lobster-flavored water, she said. We'll sell loyalty. But first, she had one last thing to handle. That afternoon she walked straight up to Amira's desk. We need to talk, she said quietly. Amira looked up, eyes widening just enough to confirm it all. Evelyn's voice was low, but it didn't shake. You had every chance to be honest with me, every chance to build something real, and you chose a side that claps for you while they plan to discard you the second you're not useful. Amira swallowed hard. It's not what you think. No, Evelyn cut her off. It's exactly what I think. She handed Amira a white envelope. Severance, final paycheck, termination notice. As Amira stood to speak, Evelyn leaned in, her voice colder now. You could have helped build a legacy. Instead, you'll be a footnote in someone else's. And she walked away. She didn't flinch, didn't look back. By the end of the month, Evelyn's name was everywhere. Podcasts, business blogs, social media, memes, debates. Some praised her, others mocked her. The story had spun beyond her control. Can kindness survive capitalism? The Belmar versus Pure. Forrissy, is Evelyn Langford a disruptor or just a privileged avenger? TV panels argued over her like she was a policy, not a person. A popular host sneered through the screen. It's emotional capitalism, guilt-wrapped groceries. You don't build a brand on pity. And just like that, the narrative started to slip. Not because she failed, but because the world didn't know what to do with a woman who wasn't trying to sell a sob story or beg for sympathy. Evelyn didn't cry on camera. She didn't beg for compassion. She built something better, and that scared people. Pure Market saw the shift, and they took advantage. The next week, they launched a brutal ad campaign, glossy commercials, cold, polished voices. When you want professionalism, not pity. Because groceries shouldn't feel like a therapy session. Some people build stores, others build sob stories. Every ad was a slap in the face, passive-aggressive. Targeted, merciless. Evelyn didn't respond. Not with ads, not with statements. She responded with concrete. The first Belmar community market opened 2 weeks later, right next door to Pure Market's glass palace, and it was alive. Kids laughing near the free book table. A violinist playing softly near the produce section. Shelves lined with goods from local artisans. A single mom giving haircuts in the back corner for tips. Fresh bread from a bakery run by ex-convicts who couldn't get hired anywhere else. Every face in that store told a story, and Evelyn walked through it like a general in calm armor, not stopping for interviews, not posing for pictures. Just watching, smiling, taking notes. It didn't take long for word to spread. The media came anyway, hungry for drama. They asked, "Is this your response to Pure?" Evelyn finally looked into the cameras. "No," she said. "This is my response to being told I didn't belong, and to every person who's ever been followed in a store, looked down on, or made to feel small. This space is for you." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. The video went viral in a day. Pure Market responded with lawsuits, ridiculous claims of trade secret theft, employee poaching, slander. All flimsy, all designed to drag her into courtrooms and headlines. Evelyn showed up with a legal team Marcus handpicked, sharks in suits. The lawsuits were dropped by the end of the week, but the pressure was building. Evelyn felt it in her. Bones, not just business tension, but personal cracks forming. Marcus was quieter lately, distant. He worked long hours and avoided interviews, like he was bracing for something worse. She caught him staring at the fireplace one night, glass, of whiskey untouched. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. He didn't answer right away. Then, "They're digging." She froze. "Who?" "Everyone. Media. Investors. Old enemies. They're trying to find anything. Any crack in our past. My past. Your past. Because they can't destroy what you're building. Unless they make people hate you first." It was true. In a world that worshipped scandal and downfall, they were becoming a target. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Let them dig. We've buried nothing." He didn't answer, not with words, but she noticed the next day. Extra security posted. Passwords changed. Lawyers on standby. Then, just when things seemed to calm, it happened. A video leaked, grainy old, from Evelyn's college years. She was arguing in a convenience store. Young, messy, angry, and clearly intoxicated. The clip cut at just the right moment to make her look like she'd snapped at a cashier. "This is why we check your kind twice," the text overlay read. Fake, edited, twisted. But in the age of virality, truth came second. The internet exploded. "Where's Cancel Belmar?" or an entitled Evelyn, "Once Belmar exposed." Even though the original full video showed Evelyn defending the cashier from a racist customer, no one cared. The damage was done. Pure Market stayed silent, publicly, but someone anonymously paid to boost the fake version. It spread faster than Evelyn could breathe. That night she sat alone in the community market office, the lights off. Her hands trembled for the first time since this all began. She thought about quitting, not because she was guilty, but because she was tired, so damn tired. But then Jesse returned. The tattooed kid she thought had vanished. He walked into the market with 2 bags of groceries and a sheepish smile. "Hey," he said, "I'm sorry I disappeared. They offered me more. I thought I needed the money, but I hated it there." She stared. He set the bags down. "I've been helping in the shelters, using what I learned here. Helping them rebuild resumes, cook, talk to customers. You taught me more than that paycheck ever did." He took her hand and said, "You're not just running a store, Evelyn. You're building a fight people actually believe in. Don't stop. Now." That night she didn't sleep. She planned. The next day Evelyn Langford called a press conference, not to apologize, to declare war. The press conference wasn't held at a luxury venue. It wasn't staged under chandeliers or dressed in designer backdrops with golden mics and PR agents swarming like bees. It was held in the parking lot of the original Belmar store, the same one she had been kicked out of. A folding table, a few mics, dozens of folding chairs, plastic cups of lemonade on the side, poured by teenage staffers with hopeful eyes. And still the crowd came. Camera crews, reporters, bloggers, live streamers, protesters on both sides, some holding signs that read, "In Evelyn we trust." Others still clinging to the smear campaign, shouting things like, "Liar, and entitled trash." Evelyn stepped up to the mic wearing simple jeans and a black turtleneck. No branding, no makeup team, just her voice. She paused, looked out at the crowd, and then she spoke. "When I was kicked out of this store, then I walked home crying. Not because someone called me names, but because I realized how easy it is to be made invisible." She scanned the audience, her voice firm, calm. "I was dressed wrong. I didn't look rich, I didn't speak a certain way. And that was enough to label me a threat. That's not just my story. It's the story of thousands of people who walk into stores and feel like they need to prove they belong." She took a breath. "So I bought the place not out of revenge, not to play some billionaire's game. I bought it because I never wanted another woman or man or child to feel that kind of humiliation again." A few in the crowd clapped, others stayed silent. But the energy shifted. Some crossed arms, slowly uncrossed. "And since then," she continued, "Pure Market has tried to erase us. They've stolen staff, mocked us, lied about us. They even dug up old footage of me, edited it to turn people against me." She paused again, her voice lowering. "If telling the truth, standing up for dignity, makes me a target, then so be it. I'm not leaving." The applause was louder now. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled. Some people in the back even stood. Evelyn looked straight into the lens of the main broadcast camera. "And to Pure Market," she said, "you built your brand on perfection. But perfection is cold. It doesn't feed the soul. Our stores may not shine like yours, but we are real, we are messy, and we are here to stay." She stepped back from the mic. No slogan, no corporate spin, just the truth. And it hit. Hard. That clip alone racked up over 20 million views in 48 hours. But Pure Market wasn't going down without a fight. The following morning, a series of leaked financial documents were published anonymously on a sleazy tabloid blog. According to the documents, which were later revealed to be heavily doctored, Marcus Langford had been hiding money offshore and funneling funds through shell companies tied to Belmar's community initiative. The headline read, "Is Evelyn's empire built on dirty money?" And the wolves came running. By noon, Belmar's suppliers began pulling out, scared of being caught in scandal. One of their food distributors halted shipments, pending investigation. 2 banks froze minor company accounts. Investors panicked. Evelyn's phone was flooded. Marcus wasn't picking up. She didn't panic at first. But by 7 p.m., she found herself standing alone in their kitchen, staring at a stack of unopened mail and a phone that wouldn't stop buzzing. Marcus finally came home at 9:42 p.m. His face was tired, shoulders heavy, tie loosened. He didn't even close the door fully before she asked, "Is it true?" He looked at her. His silence was the loudest sound she'd ever heard. "Marcus," she said again, slower this time, "did you hide money?" He stepped closer. "I didn't steal, I didn't lie to you, but I did move funds, quietly, for protection, from early on, before any of this." Evelyn's breath caught. "Why would you?" "Because the world doesn't reward people who play by the rules," he said, voice low. "I saw what they did to other startups, to competitors. I wanted us to be safe, untouchable." She took a step back. "Do you know what they're saying about me now?" she whispered. "That I'm a fraud. That I built Belmar with dirty money. You put a target on me." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I protected us." "No," she said, shaking her head. "You protected the money." The silence between them cracked something inside her. He reached out. She didn't take his hand. That night she didn't sleep at home. She drove to the old Langford guest house near the edge of town, sat on the porch alone, listening to cicadas scream into the darkness. The next morning she issued a public statement, not defensive, not apologetic, just real. Every dollar that went into Belmar was accounted for. If anything improper happened, I will address it, own it, and fix it. But I will not step away. Not because it's hard, not because it's ugly, but because we don't walk away from things we believe in, especially not when people are watching. The comments section exploded. But something strange happened. For every hater, there were 10 more standing behind her. Former Belmar employees wrote open letters of support. Families who benefited from her market posted photos and videos thanking her. The violinist from the launch event played outside Pure Market and held a sign that said, "You can't buy soul." Pure doubled down. They launched Pure Academy, a training school meant to create the elite workforce of tomorrow. Uniforms, scripts, smiles like masks, but no warmth, no joy. And customers began to feel it. It wasn't instant, but slow like a tide pulling back. People trickled back to Belmar, even the ones who once rolled their eyes because realness doesn't need a press kit. It speaks for itself. The calm didn't last long. 3 days after Evelyn's public statement, Pure Market launched a bomb. A full-page ad in the National Business Chronicle paired with a viral video campaign titled, "A Brand is Only as Honest as Its Founders." The video was sleek, cinematic, dangerous. It started with blurred footage of Evelyn being escorted out of the original Belmar store. Her tears, her confusion, her silence. Then suddenly the screen shifted to Marcus. Photos of him at corporate retreats, headlines from a decade ago about aggressive tech acquisitions, minor lawsuits, and speculation about quiet financial maneuvers. But it was the final shot that burned its way across the internet. Black screen with 5 words in bold white font. How much did she know? The implication hit like a punch to the throat. Pure Market wasn't just going after Marcus anymore. They were saying Evelyn was in on it from the start. The fallout was instant. Overnight, news outlets started calling Belmar a vanity project, built on privilege and guilt. One of their biggest suppliers terminated their contract. A city councilwoman withdrew her public endorsement. Worse, one of Evelyn's newly opened community locations was vandalized. The front windows were smashed in. Graffiti sprayed across the walls. Fraud. Liar. Fake queen. Evelyn stood in front of the damage the next morning, arms crossed, her breath visible in the morning cold. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She simply stared until her staff arrived with plywood and tools. The news made it worse. Photos of her in front of the broken store headlined the Daily Wire with the caption, "Fall of a False Hero." Marcus finally called. "Come home," he said softly. Evelyn didn't answer right away. Her voice came out hoarse. "How bad is it going to get?" There was a long pause. "They're digging deeper," he admitted, "looking for a way to connect us to embezzlement even if it isn't true." "And you think they'll find something?" "No," he said, "but I think they'll make something if they can't." That night, Evelyn held a meeting with her remaining store leads. Only half showed up. One of them, Camilla, spoke up with trembling hands. "I love you, Evelyn, I do. But we're bleeding. People are scared. The press is killing us, and if you don't step away, just temporarily, we're going to lose the whole company." Evelyn's chest tightened. She had worked too hard, fought too long, survived too much just to vanish quietly while the wolves danced. But Camilla wasn't wrong. Her presence had become a lightning rod, and people who depended on her, single mums, ex-cons, new hires trying to escape poverty, were all burning in her shadow. That night she stood in the office alone and looked. At the photo wall, faces of every person hired since she took over. Notes from children written in crayon. "Thank you, Miss Evelyn. I love the free books. My mum finally has a job, and yet..." The phone kept buzzing. Lawyers, journalists, threats. Even a death threat delivered to her inbox with her old home address attached. She made her decision at 3:14 a.m. The next morning she held a press event. Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned forward, expecting another dramatic speech. Evelyn stepped up and said calmly, "I'm stepping down as public face of Belmar." Gasps, murmurs. Someone dropped a pen. "I'm not running. I'm not hiding. I'm doing this because Belmar is bigger than me, bigger than any single name or face. And if my silence gives this movement a chance to breathe, then that's what I'll give it." A reporter shouted, "So you're admitting guilt?" Evelyn looked him in the eye. "No, I'm admitting love." She stepped away from the podium without answering a single follow-up question. Within hours, the market stabilized. 2 suppliers reversed their decisions. Sales went up slightly. The smear campaign lost steam, like a fire running out of oxygen. But Evelyn didn't celebrate. She sat alone in the guest house, phone off, blinds drawn. Marcus arrived that evening. She didn't greet him with a hug. He stood in the doorway, watching her. "I never wanted this for you," he said quietly. She stared at the floor. "I wanted truth. And now I'm the villain in a story I didn't write." "I can fix it," he said. "I'll go public. I'll take it all." But she shook her head. "This isn't just about guilt or innocence. It's about the fact that I don't know who I'm married to anymore." His face dropped. "I fought this war because I believed in what we were building," she said, voice low. "But now I don't know if I'm standing on sand or steel." He walked toward her slowly. "Then let me show you. Let me prove it." She didn't stop him, but she didn't reach for him either. That night, they slept in the same bed, but worlds apart. For weeks, Evelyn stayed off camera. She didn't tweet, didn't post, didn't show her face at stores. Instead, she worked quietly behind the scenes, helping restructure Belmar's board, transferring public duties to trusted managers, making sure the market kept moving, even if her name faded from the headlines. And fade it did. The media grew bored. The hate shifted elsewhere. And Pure, they celebrated. They saw her silence as surrender. They even published a smug editorial titled, "Luxury Wins Again, the Belmar Experiment is Fading." But they didn't know Evelyn wasn't done. She was transforming. The final blow came on a Thursday. No press conference, no teasers. Just a quiet rollout across Belmar's entire network. A new digital campaign. No actors, no music, no glitz. Just real videos, real faces. Mothers who'd gotten second chances. Fathers released from prison and now managing stores. Kids hugging the librarians Belmar had hired for the in-store reading corners. One video in particular went viral. An elderly black man standing inside a Belmar community market, crying as he held a bag of groceries. "I used to come in here afraid they'd follow me," he said through tears. "Now they ask me if I'm doing okay. Every time." The full screen faded to black with the words, "We don't need to scream, we just need to keep showing up." The campaign exploded. Pure Market, in response, panicked. Their executives tried to pivot, hastily installing community programs in their stores that looked awkward and hollow. They tried hiring diversity consultants. They even reached out to influencers to help salvage their image. But it was too late. The public had seen the truth. One brand built a castle on ice. The other had built roots, and roots don't melt. Sales at Belmar surged by 26% in a month. 4 new community markets opened, lines out the door, volunteer programs, local partnerships with schools and food banks, staff retention at an all-time high. Meanwhile, Pure began bleeding money. Investors pulled out. Whispers of bankruptcy crept through Wall Street. Then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, it happened. A quiet email dropped into Evelyn's inbox from Marcus. Subject: Pure offer attached, was a legal draft. Pure Market, cornered and gasping, wanted to sell to her at half its value. She read the document twice, and then she laughed. Not the polite, practiced laugh the press had once seen, but a raw, quiet, almost sorrowful laugh. The kind that came from surviving something no one ever thought you would. She forwarded the document to her lawyer with a single line. "Tell them no." Marcus called her minutes later. "You sure?" he asked. She didn't hesitate. They never cared about people. They cared about the illusion of power. Let them collapse on their own lies. She didn't want to inherit their rot. She wanted it to die. That night, for the first time in months, she returned to the original Belmar. She walked in quietly. No camera, no staff announcement. Just her, in a hoodie and jeans like it all began. A little girl spotted her near the fresh produce. "Hey, you're the lady from the poster." Evelyn knelt down and smiled. "I guess I am." The girl handed her a drawing, stick figures holding hands in front of a building with big block letters, Bellamore. "Close enough." "Thank you," Evelyn whispered. When she stepped outside, Marcus was waiting for her. Rain misted the air. He didn't say anything, just held out an umbrella like he used to before the money, before the war, before the silence. She hesitated, then took it. They walked together down the sidewalk, not quite touching, but no longer drifting apart either. "I never meant to become the story," she said quietly. He looked at her. "You didn't. You became the symbol." She thought about that. Maybe he was right. She never asked to be a hero or a martyr or a business mogul. She just wanted to buy bread, be treated with dignity, and live without shame. And somehow that became a revolution. In the end, Evelyn Langford didn't beat Pure with ads or lawsuits or screaming matches. She beat them with consistency, with kindness, with never backing down, with walking back into the place she was, once humiliated, and turning it into hope. And she did it all wearing the same coat they laughed at,